Hey everybody, Chris the old ass retro gamer here, back with another video game collection live stream. Today I'm talking about the PSVR. Duh. So, I decided during the first PlayStation 4 stream that I did 3 weeks ago that I was going to segregate all of my PSVR games and do a separate stream about them because I do have a lot, and I have a lot to talk about. So, let's go. I'd like to be able to see what I'm doing, though. So, yes, this is the PlayStation VR unit. Got this. Well, actually, I was not actually interested in this when it was first released. The only reason I bought it was because I had offhand mentioned to Jason from Corpse Flood Gaming during, I think it was the Midwest Gaming Classic, that I was interested. I thought it was cool. I was slightly interested in it. The price was the problem because the original price for this unit when it was first released was basically the exact same price as a PlayStation 4, like a full price PlayStation 4. And I was like, yeah, I don't feel like spending $400 on this thing. Who knows how long it's going to be supported? If the games are going to be any good. You know, there was a lot of variables, and I was not going to throw away $400 because, you know, the Virtual Boy, how long did that last? You know, other virtual reality systems didn't seem to, you know, ever come about, so I didn't have any faith in this thing. So then Jason texted me one day, it was maybe like 3 or 4 months after the Midwest Gaming Classic, whatever year that was, and said that he was looking over the Facebook marketplace in Canada, and there was a guy selling his unit for like $125 or $130, something like that. And he was like, "You interested in it? Because I'm going to go pick it up." And I said, "Yeah, for that price, I definitely buy it." And he picked it up for me because he's an awesome guy. I did pay him back. And he shipped it to me from Canada in a Huggies box, which was kind of funny. And it was complete except for the game that this specific unit came with. So, let's see here. This is the unit that I got. It was supposed to come with PlayStation VR Worlds. It did not. I had to buy the game separately, but it was a cheap game, so it was not a big deal. It's essentially a big demo reel for the PSVR. And how does it work? Well, obviously, you put this thing on your head. You plug a PlayStation camera into your system, place it on top of your TV, beneath your TV, as long as it's going to be facing you when you play it, or facing the area where you play. And it also comes with 2 of these Move controllers. You can get a version that doesn't come with the Move controllers. I highly recommend, if you are planning on getting a PlayStation VR, that you get them, because there are a lot of awesome games that utilize these very well. Basically, what happens is, when you turn these on, these bulbs on top turn a different color. You know, they're different colors from each other, so that the camera can see them and differentiate from your left and right hand. And it depends on what you're doing with them. Like, you could be using these as guns because they have triggers on the bottom, so you could actually be using them as if they were guns. You could use them as like a hitting weapon. You can use them as your hands, because these, in certain games, you pull the triggers and your hands will clasp. Your hands will open when you let go of the triggers. You pull them and they grip. Pretty awesome. They do all sorts of things. You can also just use a standard controller for a lot of the games. There is also something which I left in the other room, and I'm stupid for not bringing it in here, and I'll be right back. Certain games also utilize this aim controller, which is essentially a light gun for your PSVR. It's really big, it's really awkward, but does have a controller, like a analog controller on the back end. Trigger has another controller here, plus a D-pad, and 2 different triggers in the front here. And there's also buttons on the tops and the sides that are like start, the R1 and R2 buttons, that kind of thing. And then around the trigger back here, or the stick back here, you have your X0, or your X0 triangle, or circle, triangle, and square buttons. I've only been able to use this for 2 games that I own, but it's awesome. It's very, very accurate, very fun to use. It's not very heavy, which is pretty cool, even though it is bulky as hell. I don't know why it needed to be this bulky. But whatevs, I like it a lot. And that's about it. So why do I do these live streams? I bring this up in every one of them, and it is not to brag. It's not to just show off all the games I have so I can say, like, look at all this stuff I have and you don't type of stuff. I'm not like that. That's not what I do these for. I do these because, one, it's good content for the channel, because I've been really lazy when it comes to edited content, so this is good for the channel. Keep it alive, keep it thriving. And also because it's good to have a visual record of everything you have in your collection, just in case something happens, like a fire, or you get robbed, or, you know, something bad happens. You know, I can say, this is what I have in my collection. You know, I had it in my hand. There you go. So let's get into it. So I need to get this PlayStation VR out here because it has a very long cable. But the cool thing about the VR is that it's not like a little screen in the center of your vision. This thing is all-encompassing. It is pretty awesome the way it works. It fills up your field of vision when you're playing a game, which is awesome. And I just dropped something. Crap. Yeah, it fills your field of vision. You'll turn your head. The lights on the front of the headset, and there's lights on the back too, will get tracked by the camera, and your vision will be able to look where you are actually looking in real life. You know, where your head turns, your game self turns. It's pretty awesome. And it works really, really well. And you can also use this to watch 3D Blu-rays. I've made a couple of videos about the topic of 3D Blu-rays that look awesome in this headset. It's not like the whole VR situation. It is actually just a screen in front of your face. But the 3D, since the VR does 3D extremely well, it has to make things look real, you know, to do the whole VR thing. It is able to do 3D Blu-rays really, really well, and it works. I mean, watch the 2 videos that I did about them. There's some awesome stuff out there that looks fantastic in this thing. So yeah, let's get into the games, shall we? Let me get this box off of here because it's heavy as shit. So there's a lot of companies out there outside of the mainstream ones that are doing VR games, like Limited Run releases VR games from time to time. I Am 8-Bits released one. And then a lot of the games that were only available digitally through the PS Marketplace or the PS Store have been coming out overseas, like in the UK and China and Japan and Germany and France. A lot of those digital-only games here are available physically over there, kind of like the way Limited Run does. So I have a lot of games from overseas that I've bought because we never got a physical copy over here. Or we never had a physical version released over here, which is awesome. So lots of options. And plus, like, if you are a fan of the PSVR, I just checked out the store today, the PSVR store on the PlayStation Store Marketplace thing. And there was a ton of stuff there. There's a lot of free stuff, too, which is pretty awesome. I downloaded, like, 3 different demos today. I will be talking about one later. So let's get into the game. So here's one from Limited Run. Haven't opened it yet. Shocker. But I do plan on playing this. I hear it's actually pretty short. I have a 3-day weekend this weekend, which I believe a lot of you do in the U.S. So I plan on playing through a bunch of these shorter games. The first one is Accounting Plus. And at first, you hear the word, or the title, Accounting Plus. You're like, what is that even about? Please do not tell me you're sitting at a virtual abacus or something and you're making the monies and doing people's taxes and stuff. No. It's I guess it's by Justin Roiland, who's the guy who is who does Rick and Morty. So it's kind of like a comedy VR game. It just says, meet Tree Guy. We are best friends and tell each other everything. I visit his hole in my playthrough every day. Watch out for the demon. You can play music in this game. When you steal the king's heart. Zing! Let's drive to a nice place together, so I'll do something bad. It doesn't make any sense on the back. There's not even really any pictures of gameplay. But Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming, and I think Church also told me that this game is kind of fantastic. So I'm definitely going to be playing through this, most likely this weekend. There's another one in here that I need to play through also. This one is pretty awesome. Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown. This has been released for the Xbox One also, but when you get the PlayStation version, it has a VR mode included. You don't have to play with VR, which is great for people who don't own it. But for those who do, holy crap. You ever play a jet fighter game in VR, like from the first person? I highly recommend you pick this up. The graphics are absolutely phenomenal. It gives you this awesome sense of speed. The dogfight is intense. If you like Wing Commander type games like I do, flight simulator, flight combat type games, this is some top-notch stuff. I highly recommend it. It is super fun. What's up, Sylvia? How's it going? Fuck Google. What's going on, man? Chris Levy raid? Well, welcome. Welcome. That's probably only the second raid I've ever had in my life. Here's one I'm not too fond of. It's called The American Dream, a samurai punk virtual reality trip. So, it's kind of like a parody of America. So, it's like a bunch of mini games. All of them involve guns. So, it's like Americans all have guns and use guns to do everything. Like, play football by shooting the ball in the air with a gun. Or you want to cook dinner, you have to shoot the stove and all this other kind of stuff. It's really kind of strange. I accidentally switched on this mode where there would normally be dialogue coming at you to tell you what to do. Don't ban me. Don't ban nobody, man. What's up, Chris Levy? Thanks for the raid. Normally there would be like a narrator telling you what to do. Or the characters in the game are telling you what to do. I switched on a mode where the only thing you hear coming out of anybody's mouth in this game is America. So you hear it, America, 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 America. It's disturbing and annoying after a while, and might be one of the reasons why I did not enjoy when I was playing this. But, I mean, if you look at the cover of this game, even the dog has a freaking gun. I just didn't find it fun. That was my issue. Even though I had the America thing screaming in my head, I just wasn't enjoying myself. The mini games don't control very well. They're all kind of the same. And the humor kind of wore thin on me very quickly. So I was not big into that one. Haven't tried this one because this one is pretty new also. I got this one last month, I want to say. And it was because there was a sale at, I think it was Best Buy. No, it was Target. Angry Birds Movie 2 Under Pressure VR. Can you picture the Angry Birds in virtual reality? So you're actually in the slingshot flying at the things that you're trying to knock over, which is pretty awesome. I'm not a big, huge fan of Angry Birds or the movies. I've seen the first movie, but I basically got this because that sounds like a lot of fun to do that like in the first person. So I picked it up. Dogs will take over the world with guns. Yeah. Next one is Apex Construct. Got this one not too long. Well, I got this one over the summer, I want to say. I got this from GameStop. And it just says, this is one of the PSVR's most complete adventures. Apex Construct is the standard by which future VR titles will be judged. Travel to the shattered future of Apex Construct. It's in the first person, and you are fighting robots. First-person action-adventure game built exclusively for VR. Haven't had a chance to play this one yet because I got a lot of VR games. But it looked pretty awesome. And I got it pretty cheap. I have played this one, Arizona Sunshine. Had to get this one from overseas. Was released digitally here and physically in, I do believe this was from the UK. It's a first-person shooter where you're like the last person left alive on Earth during a zombie apocalypse. And there's a lot of like puzzly stuff you have to do. And of course there's shooting. You know, you have to shoot the zombies that are going to eat your brains. But it's just, the graphics aren't the greatest. It's really slow. The puzzles are kind of vague at times. Picking things up is kind of a pain in the ass. I played it for, I want to say, maybe 3 hours, and I kind of got stuck because I needed to find a specific item, and I could not find it anywhere. Even asking Jason of Corpse Flood, who I do believe had beaten this, and a couple of other people, they're like, I don't know what to say. You should be able to find that item you need pretty easily. I looked and scoured everywhere. I backtracked all the way back to the beginning of the game. I couldn't find it, so I was stuck. And I was just kind of like, F this game. I mean, it's a cool idea, but bad execution. If dog is man's best friend, then they can't be any worse than the politicians. They're using psychological warfare against us. The woo flu scare right now. Whatever, dude. Astrobot Rescue Mission. This is a platformer in VR, and the thing is, you would think that you're playing it from the robot, you know, the main character. You can see he's putting on a VR headset. You'd be playing it from his point of view. You are not. You're playing it from like an outsider's point of view, watching all the things happening. You are controlling the robot, but you're watching from above, which I thought was a really cool thing. And your character has like these rocket boosters in his feet, so he can like shoot up to higher platforms and stuff. You're collecting all your other robot friends that have been lost amongst all the stages. It's kind of like Mario 64 in a way, but good. I do not like Mario 64 at all. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. I've played this maybe to the halfway point, and I was streaming it actually on Twitch. I liked it a lot. It's one of my favorite games for the VR system. I like it a lot. Haven't played this one yet, but I don't know how exciting it can be. I got this from Limited Run Games, and the reason I haven't opened it yet is you'll see when you see what the title is. It's called A-Train Express. Simulation game, railroad management, urban development. It's like SimCity with trains, I guess, in VR. And I bought it because Limited Run. It sounded kind of like an interesting game at first, and then I started looking into it after I purchased it, and I was like, oh, I might have made a mistake. But I will eventually try it out. I don't know anybody who's actually played this one yet. I don't hear anybody talking about it, so we'll see. Still need to play this. Jason Corpseflood keeps telling me I need to play it. It's actually kind of short, too, from what I understand. Batman Arkham VR. I don't know if it's actually like a game. It says, it immerses the players in the Dark Knight's universe as they experience Gotham City through the eyes of the world's greatest detective. Think like Batman and utilize his legendary gadgets to unravel a plot that threatens the lives of his closest allies and this all-new Arkham mystery. Okay, so I was under the assumption that it was just like you're in the Batcave, because I watched a video about this back when it was first released, and it was like you're in the Batcave and you got the computer and everything and all these costumes and stuff, and I thought it was you're just as Batman in the Batcave doing things in the Batcave. Apparently there's actually a game too. That's good to know. But I would definitely be playing through this one pretty soon. I want to play through all the Arkham games. I've played through 2 of them, so I will get around to it eventually. Battlezone, this I thought was going to be an update of the classic Atari game, like the arcade game. It is in a way, and it isn't. It's not developed by Atari at all. But it is a tank game from the inside of the tank in VR, and it is actually pretty fun. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just basically drive your tank around, shoot other enemies that are coming at you. It's not that complicated. It was a launch game, I do believe, for the PSVR, so it is kind of one note because it's kind of like a demo of what the PSVR could do. So it's pretty cool in short bursts. This is probably one of my favorite games for the PSVR. And I'm no joke. If you are even considering getting a PSVR, this should be the first game you buy. And it's called Blood and Truth. It's a British gangster movie, interactive gangster movie. You got this character who is a Fed who has like had you infiltrate. No, you're. Oh, geez, what was it? You're part of a crime family who's at war with another crime family. You've been put in jail. You come back. You get drafted by this FBI guy to help him bring the other mafia group down. And the thing is, everything that you need to do to platform in the game. There's a lot of gunplay. You actually hold the I keep on wanting to call these Wiimotes. The move controllers work as the guns, and you have to shoot with the triggers on the move controllers, which is kind of cool. Lots of different guns you can to choose from. There's ways to customize them, but there's hand-to-hand also, and also there's like the platforming part. So you want to climb a ladder, you have to. If you're not holding a gun, the triggers here will actually clasp your hands, like I was talking about earlier. And if you want to climb a ladder, you have to actually do the movements and grab with your hand. And keep doing that over, and you have to bring the rung down so that you'll ascend, and you have to keep doing that. If you need to shimmy across a ledge on the outside of a building, you actually have to do the crossing your hands move with these. And you're climbing a ladder across, like monkey bars. You actually have to do the movements with your hands with these. It really immerses you in the game. The story is awesome. Lots of great characters. There's a fantastic car shootout in the middle of the game that I loved. The gunplay is great. It's just super immersive, and I cannot wait for them to make a sequel because it's left open for one. I hope we get one. It would be fantastic if we did. I don't know if maybe it'll come out for the PlayStation 5 VR. I don't know. Here's one that's pretty new that I got that I haven't tried out yet. It's called Concrete Genie. Got this from Best Buy, and I do believe it is a puzzle game. On a personal, heartwarming journey as Ash to restore the desolate town of I can't read that, so small. Denska. Bring mischievous genies to life who work alongside you to solve puzzles. Experience a magical painting adventure across 2 included PlayStation VR modes. It was on sale. It's a VR game. I wanted it. Ugh. Are you in the UK, Sylvia? Here's one I haven't tried yet. I got this a couple years ago on Black Friday from GameStop. They had a sale. I picked up Creed Rise to Glory, one of the few licensed games that have come out recently. Based on this came out around the same time as the second Creed movie came out, but it's essentially a boxing game like Fight Night in VR, and it's from the first person. You got your fist out in front of you. You got to use the move controllers to do the punches and your uppercuts and all that kind of stuff. I've heard some people tell me that it's actually really fun, and some people say that it's pretty frustrating. I know Jason from Corpse Flood said it's a workout. He says this is the closest you're going to get to playing like a Wii motion control game, which is kind of awesome. I mean, I could stand to lose a few pounds. Play as classic Rocky Balboa, debuting on the PSVR. I get to play as Sly Stallone. Hooray! Haven't tried this one out yet, but it was an exclusive to GameStop, so I picked it up. It's a horror game called, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's French. Déraciné. Excuse me if I am mispronouncing the game name. But it's a horror game in the first person, and I hear it's pretty short, but it's by From Software, the people who do Dark Souls. So I'm kind of surprised I have not popped this in yet, but I have other games I want to play first. Don't Knock Twice, another horror game. I haven't tried this one either. I got this from, I do believe, GameStop as well. But it's another first-person horror game based on a terrifying urban legend, according to the back of this. Don't Knock Twice can be enjoyed in on a standard PS4 game or as a full VR game. One knock to wake her from her bed, twice to raise her from the dead. Ooh, sounds scurry. But it it uses the move controllers, so that's kind of awesome. How much does what cost? Which one? The first horror game? You talking the Déraciné? I think it was like $30. I have played this one, and I was not very fond of it, but I understand that there are ways to tweak the way that you play it to make it better. It's called Doom VFR. It's the original, or 2016 Doom done in virtual reality. The way you moved in the game was not like you're walking around like you are in the standard game by using the controller. You do use the controller. Did not realize you could also use the aim gun. So the thing is, when you wanted to move, if you're playing with the controller, you have like a cursor that you can move ahead of you, and where you stop and you hit a button, and your character will just automatically jump to that spot. So it's like you're teleporting around instead of actually just walking through the environments, which I was not fond of. It was jerky and disorienting, and it made I couldn't shoot anything to save my life because it was hard to turn to look at things. So I'd move toward an enemy, and then he would jump to my left, and I'd be like, oh, I gotta use this thing, which is like this jerky turn mechanic to see him. I was like, no, this ain't working. And then I found out you can use the gun, and you can use the thumbsticks on the gun to actually move around. You just have to tweak something in the settings. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot again. But I have played through the standard version of the game. I just need to play through this virtual reality version. But for a first-person shooter in virtual reality, it looked pretty awesome. What's up, Godzilla Gorilla? How's it going? Welcome to the stream. Downward Spiral Horus Station. This is another one I had to import from the UK. Never got a release over here. It did come kind of busted up. The case is severely cracked. I need to buy some replacements. But this one is, I haven't tried this one either, but it says Downward Spiral is a mysterious and atmospheric zero-gravity thriller set in a lost and forgotten horror station. Mysterious environmental storytelling experience playable in both solo and online co-op, which is pretty cool. So if anybody has this, let me know. We'll get a game going. 8-player zero-G death matches and horde modes. Totally new way to experience movement in zero-G. Soundtrack by platinum-selling him frontman Villy Vallo. I am not a fan of him. Optional Explorer mode. One of 2018's best VR games. So it's a first-person shooter. That's cool. All is well. All is well, sir. Everybody's Golf VR. This one is actually pretty new. I got this last month. I got this at the Target sale where it was like buy two, get one free. And yeah, it's golfing in VR. I'm not sure. It says that you can use the Move controllers. I hope you get to use the Move controller as like the golf club. That would be fun. I'm not a sports game fan, but something like this just sounds like some good old-fashioned fun. So I was not going to pass it up. I got it for like less than $10. Whew. Next up, this one is pretty awesome, even though I had a bad experience with it at first. This one's Eve Valkyrie. I do believe it's connected to the Eve Online games somehow. But the thing is, this is like that Ace Combat game. It's an inside the spaceship, like, flight combat game, kind of like Wing Commander. So, I had gone to the local GameStop by my work after I'd gotten the PlayStation VR to get some new games. And the girl that was working at that GameStop is probably one of the most annoying human beings I've ever met. And it was like she was creeping on me. Every time I would pick up a game case to look at it, she would immediately run up to me and tell me all about it. And I'm like, can I just browse without being harassed? I mean, that would be fantastic. So I picked this one up and she came running over and, that's the best VR game I've ever played, guy. You need to have it. It's fantastic. I'm like, yeah, okay. And the first time I booted it up that night, actually. All I got was a screen, like I was watching a movie in the PlayStation, in the headset. And it was like, I was like, is this what this is? Where's the whole encompassing, fills your field of vision thing, turn my head, and like the view changes type of thing? No, it was like a screen in the middle of the visor. And I was like, if this is the way this game is, F this game. That's a ripoff. You know, why would you say it's an exclusive PSVR game, you know, that doesn't get played any other way when it doesn't have like a VR mode in it? It turned out there was like some setting that I had to switch on or something like that, and then I did that later on, and I was like, okay, now this is what I'm talking about, and it is fantastic. It's like a Wing Commander style game inside a cockpit of a spaceship, and you're shooting down enemies, and it's hard. There's a lot to take in. There's a lot going on at once on the stages, and it's kind of confusing at first, but once you get used to the way the game works, I highly recommend it. It is super fun. Graphics are fantastic, by the way. Oh, I'm going to talk about Iron Man VR when I finish talking about the games I actually own. Oh, I'm definitely talking about the Iron Man VR later on. Trust me, stick around. Stick around. Come on, do now. Farpoint. Picked this one up because I do believe it was Musty Hobbit who was talking about this one day. And I was like, that sounds kind of cool because this is one of the games, or one of the first games I knew of that utilized the aim controller. So the day that I bought this is the day that I bought the aim controller at the GameStop. And I ran home and I streamed it and I beat it in two playthroughs. I played it twice on stream and I beat it the second day. It's kind of fantastic. It's a first-person shooter. You're at a space station at the beginning, and the space station gets sucked into like a black hole or a wormhole or something, and you end up on the other side of the galaxy. There's been some sort of a time dilation. People who went before you have been there for like decades or whatever. And it's like a first-person shooter, you trying to get to these people that crashed on the planet before you. And the controls are a little weird to get used to because, like I said, with the Doom VFR, that like the turn mechanic is you can't just turn with the thumbsticks. You can't. It's like you turn in like increments, and it's really hard to do at first. You get used to it. The game itself is actually pretty short, and it has kind of a cliffhanger ending. And I would really like them to make a sequel to this. But I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Speaking of Firewall 0 Hour Godzilla. Yeah, I got this during Black Friday, whatever year it was, where I got the Creed one, and I still haven't had a chance to play it, but this is a multiplayer game, and I didn't realize it was a multiplayer game when I bought it. How about that? I know it has a single-player mode, but the main reason you play this is to play with people online. I haven't had a chance to play it yet because I'm not a fan of those types of online games. I should try out the single-player mode just to see what that's all about, see if that actually is worth the price of admission. But haven't tried it out yet, but it does use the aim controller also, so that's a plus. Any chance I can use to play with that gigantic freaking gun is worth it. Fruit Ninja VR, picked this one up last month also. Had to order this over eBay from England, or was it Germany? This might be Germany. But Fruit Ninja. Everyone's played Fruit Ninja, right? I had it on the Xbox 360, that it was a Kinect game where you would just slice with your hands whenever the fruit would pop up on screen. You would slice with your hands as if it were a sword. But here you use the Move controllers in VR, so you've got this huge environment all around you, and you're slashing at the fruit that's coming at you with this. Simple, dinky little, like, casual style game, which is fun. Sometimes you just want to come home from work and unwind and play something mindless, and this is it. Haven't had a chance to try it out yet. Like I said, I just got it. Next up is another one I haven't really tried out yet. I had to open it up because the disc was actually loose inside when it arrived. But it's a VR puzzle adventure game called Ghost Giant. Got this from Best Buy. They had a sale on Best Buy's website. And also, that was also when I had the Gamers Club Unlocked discount. So I got this for, I want to say, $15. But haven't had a chance to try it out yet. But you basically control this ghost with these giant ghost hands, and you use the Move controllers to use them, to control the hands. And it's like picking things up, moving things around. It looked pretty fun. I watched some video of it online, so there's that. I will have to check that out, Godzilla. I'm curious to see what the game is like. Just got this one last month also. He broke his dad's iPhone. God damn, F Google. Just got this last month. It's called Gollum. This also had a foreign release, but I ended up finding this on Amazon for like $30. And it's music. It's kind of... Okay, so the way it was described to me is... It's like a adventure game, but there's like a musical element to it also. It says Gollum is a PlayStation VR exclusive adventure game from Highwire Games, a team of industry veterans involved with some of the biggest blockbuster franchises like Halo, Infamous, and Destiny. Control enormous stone giants and use them to explore an ancient city, investigate the secret connections between the city and your family's mysterious past. Featuring an innovative free movement control scheme and intense one-to-one melee combat that sees you feint, block, and counterattack your enemies. Includes a downloadable version of Echoes of the First Dreamer, the musical prequel to Gollum, from the award-winning composer of Halo and Destiny, Martin O'Connell. I was reading the description of it online, and I was just kind of like, that sounds kind of neat, so getting 2 games in one. But it's a first-person action-adventure game. Haven't tried this one yet because I heard a lot of bad things about it right after I bought it, but I was like, I'm going to play it eventually because I like the other games in this franchise that I have for the PlayStation 2, and that's Gungrave VR. It's a first-person shooter / beat-em-up in VR. The original games on the PlayStation 2 were like 3D beat-em-ups. There's a shooting mechanic and there's a combat mechanic, and they're really fun. They're just like gonzo action games. So when I first heard that this was coming out, I was like, in VR, yes. Just haven't gotten around to trying it out yet. Jason from Corpse Flood Gaming tells me that it's actually pretty good, but the reviews when it came out were not so hot, so I was like, maybe not a good idea, but you can kind of see what goes on. You can see, like, right here, you're slashing with a sword in VR, so that's kind of rad. But you use the controller and not the Move controllers, which is weird to me. This weekend, you're getting played, man. Just sent a copy of this to Captain Algebra for his birthday. Accidentally bought a second copy of it, and I was like, oh shit, and I was getting it from England. It was coming from the UK, and I told the guy, like, I bought it, and then like 2 hours later I realized I already owned it, and I was like, can I please cancel the order? Nope, sorry, it's already been shipped. I'm like, yeah, sure. And it didn't ship for 2 more days. Dick just didn't want to send me my money back. So I was like, what am I going to do with it? I'm like, hey, it's Captain Algebра's birthday. When it shows up, I'll just send it his way. And he seems to like it so far. But it's like a horror thriller style game, and you're trying to find this girl in yellow through this like city that has like no color to it. So basically the whole game's in black and white except for this girl that's in yellow. And it's like an adventure, horror, thriller style game. It looks pretty cool. How long will the stream be? Until I'm done. Anyway, here's another horror game. I think this was also a GameStop exclusive. It's called Home Sweet Home. Another horror game. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but it's in the first person, and you're exploring a house in the middle of the bayou, from what I can tell. And there's monsters afoot. So pick that one up. I keep on buying all these horror games, but I'm like afraid to play them in VR. This one is a sequel to, or a spin-off from, I do believe, Until Dawn, I think. Which is why I picked it up, and that is The Inpatient. It's a first-person game where you're in an insane asylum, and there's a lot of story elements too, and there's like conversation trees and stuff. But there's also the horror element where you have to escape and fight enemies and stuff like that. So there's that. God, I haven't tried a lot of these. It's like all the new ones. Just got this one from Limited Run Games. This showed up last month, and it's called Jupiter and Mars, and you play as dolphins. So I keep on assuming this is going to be like playing Echo the Dolphin in VR. It looks pretty beautiful, too. It looks kind of like Abzu, if you've ever played Abzu, just with a dolphin. So that sounds kind of interesting. But it doesn't look like you're playing from the point of view of the dolphin. You're playing like when I was talking about Astrobot, where you're kind of like an observer looking down upon everything, because the dolphins are like in front of the camera. So that's going to be interesting. I might try that one out this weekend. This one just showed up also. All right, have a good night, Sylvia. Thanks for coming. This one I just got last month also. It's the Killing Floor double feature. There was a version of this that was not in VR, but it's a first-person shooter, and a lot of it is, I think, team-based, which is something I'm not really into. Yeah, like I said, these have like 1 to 12 player network battles. Jesus. But first-person shooters in VR, you don't have to play multiplayer if you don't want to. So I wanted to pick it up because first-person shooters, I'm all about it. Can't use the aim controller. That's a crock. We use the move controllers, though. This one I did play, and I was not very fond of it. It's called Loading Human, Chapter 1. I do not think we're going to get a Chapter 2, 3, 4, 69. I don't think so, because it's poop. It's like a sci-fi adventure game. It is slow as molasses in winter. You're basically this guy who is an astronaut. His father was like an astronaut too, and you're trying to follow in his footsteps. And it's like all you do is just wander around like your house at the beginning of the game. The first chunk of the game is you're wandering around your house just looking at things, and then there's like a fire in an office, and you got to put it out. It's just there's nothing really going on in here that kept my interest. I played it for I want to say about 4 hours. It was one of the first games I picked up. It was the same time I picked up that Eve Valkyrie game. And I was just kind of like, I don't feel the need to play this anymore. So, there's that. Loading Human. And now I know why whenever I see this on sale brand new online in places, it's like going for like round about $5. Because it's not good. This one is a pretty new one also that I picked up called Mars Odyssey. And you're playing as this Mars probe. And it's just basically an adventure game on the surface of Mars. And it just sounds like a really cool experience type of game, you know. I don't know if it's anything like actually being on Mars or not. I doubtful, but that sounds kind of fun. It's probably pretty short, too. Most of the VR... That's the one thing I got to say about the VR games. They're usually not full-priced games, but they're also not full-length games. Usually they're between like 4 to 8 hours long, maybe 10 at the most. So, I mean, outside of like Skyrim VR or probably Doom, since I haven't beat the Doom VFR yet, I want to say most of them are pretty short, which is good because you do get a little bit of the eye strain going on when you're playing for extended periods of time, which I have gotten because there was one day where I pretty much watched like 5 3D movies in a row on a Saturday, and when I was done, I felt like I was going to pass out. I was just like googly-eyed going, I'd have no depth perception. Where's the refrigerator and the toilet, you know? Next up, we got Moss. Moss is a platformer just kind of like Astrobot. And I beat this. I wish I streamed it because it was a lot of fun. So basically, you're looking down as if you're like this. Well, the game is basically a character reading a book. And the adventures of the character in the book is this mouse, and I can never remember her name. Quill, sorry. The narrator, you're watching over the events of the game as that narrator, but you're controlling Quill. And it's like a platformer. There's a little bit of combat. She has like a sword that she can use. And she basically needs to get to this castle, defeat this dragon thing, and the game is over. It's extremely charming. Quill is the most adorable freaking video game character ever. You have like... I think it's if you hold the trigger down on the DualShock, you can use a hand, and you can use the controller, like the camera tracks the controller movements, and you can tickle Quill with your finger, and you get a trophy for doing it. It's kind of funny. And you can poke her and stuff like that to get her to move faster. It's weird the way it works, but it's really charming and fun and funny, and there's a couple parts that are kind of challenging. There's a scene where you're running away really fast. There's something chasing after you, and you have to get away pretty fast. It's actually, like, in VR, it might not be the greatest thing ever, not in VR, but in VR, it's a pretty awesome game. Like, it was designed for VR specifically. I hope we get a sequel to that one. You're on number 8. This is one that I got from Limited Run. It's called Neon Wall, and I got it because I'm a huge fan of Tron and Tron Legacy. I love those movies. They are some of my favorite movies of all time. And you look at that cover, and the first thing that came to mind was, ooh, Tron the video game in VR. It's actually like a platform puzzler. You use the Move controllers, and there's like these colored blocks. You need to move this sphere that's on the cover here, this sphere that's moving around. It needs to get through the level, and the only thing is, certain blocks are blocking your way, and they're a different color, and you have to move them with your Move controllers. So you can cycle through the different colors that are available, and then once you have the color that corresponds with the block that needs to be moved, or you moved out of the way, whatever, you have to shoot it with the appropriate color. The block moves or shifts or whatever, and your character can keep on moving. And you just basically have to get him from point A to point B, and that's it. And it's, like I said, it's like a puzzle game. And it's actually pretty fun, but it's not, like, awesome or deep or anything. It's just one of those games you play for about a half an hour, and you're like, okay, I've had enough. So, there's that. This one I have played. This one is Operation Warcade. Operation Wolf in VR, and I am not kidding. It's a on-rails shooter kind of thing, but it's kind of like a shooting gallery. Your character, you're basically just moving from left to right along, like, a shoreline, and there's enemies in the distance that you need to shoot. There's vehicles, helicopters, people running around. Basically, you're just using the Move controller to shoot people like in Operation Wolf. There's not much to it. It's a shooting gallery game. But in VR, it's pretty fun. I really enjoyed when I was playing it. It's just simple, goofy, like, throwback entertainment. I liked it a lot. Another random license game that came out for this thing, and here's a license I never thought would ever get a video game adaptation. Paranormal Activity: The Lost Soul. Yeah, it's another first-person horror game in the Paranormal Activity universe. But immerse yourself in a terrifyingly realistic world with haunting atmospheres. Freely explore without a HUD or guidance. You're truly on your own. Stay alert. The proprietary scare randomizer system will keep you on the edge of your seat. And it's an original story based on the mythology of the Paranormal Activity franchise. So, if you're a fan of these movies, which I am not, this would be up your alley. I bought it because horror game in VR. I don't care if it's based on Paranormal Activity. It looked kind of cool. I probably won't get anything story-wise out of it, but whatevs. Picked this one up because Enashi, who is another YouTuber, he knows a guy who worked on this game, and he's a big VR or PSVR fan also. And he was trying to tell me this game is only going to get a limited release. It's going to be available through Amazon. You need to buy a copy of it, the moment it goes on sale, because it's never going to be available again. So I said, fine. What's up, Retro Bro? How's it going? Well, thank you, sir. You can see it curving around my man boobs. We're talking Penn Teller Vr. Frankly unfair, unkind, unnecessary, and underhanded. Because of the limited release of this, I'm kind of afraid to open it because I'm not the biggest Penn Teller fan. I might just want to sell this and get rid of it, but at the same time, I'm like, might as well play it. You bought it. It wasn't that expensive. I think it was only like $20 also. It just says, legendary entertainers Penn and Teller bring their unique brand of magical mayhem to a virtual stage. Penn and Teller VR. So, if you look at how the title, parts of it are in red, right? So, when you take those letters and string them together, it says, F-U, you, and you. It's a virtual, torturous toy box of frankly unfair, unkind, unnecessary, and underhanded magic tricks, pranks, and simulations that will absolutely baffle and humiliate your friends. I don't think you actually play anything. I'm assuming from the way the people have told me about this, it sounds like a walking simulator through like Penn and Teller's mansion, and you come across them in each room, and they do some tricks in front of you in VR, and that's pretty much it. So there's not much to it. But like I said, it's by Gearbox Software of all people. The people that do did the Duke Nukem Forever and Borderlands, I think. But a licensed game based on Penn and Teller in VR, sure, why not? I've played worse games. Phone, get out of here. Next up is another pretty new game. It's called The Persistence. It's a first-person shooter on a spaceship, but the thing is you have like a glove, like you can see on the cover here, that like shoots electric bolts and stuff. It says fight to survive the persistence in this terrifying stealth horror roguelike game. Sneak or battle through the heroes to save the ship and make the jump home. Stealth and VR, a perfect match. Procedurally generated horror in VR and dozens of upgradable weapons and gear. First-person roguelike shooter in space. Need to find time to play all these games. That's the problem I've had. If you've watched any of my streams before this, I buy all these games and I never have time to play them. The woes of a collector. So this one I bought. Everyone's going to hate me for this. So I was thinking this was going to be something else other than what it was, right? And it's a franchise that everybody absolutely loves. So I'm going to get some shit for people saying, or for me saying that I did not like this. So we're talking the Persona Endless Night Collection. So there's these rhythm games based on Persona because the music in the Persona games is so well loved. Let's make a rhythm game out of it too and make some more money when we really don't need to. So this has Persona Dancing in Moonlight and Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight, which is a rhythm game based all around the music from the games, done in VR. So basically it just says VR mode included. Doesn't mean the VR mode is good. So I was like really excited to try a rhythm game in VR, and it's really not in VR. So like I said when I was talking about Eve Valkyrie, when I had the settings wrong, where you would think that, oh, it's a VR game, it's going to be that whole all-encompassing peripheral view type of thing. No, with this, it's like a screen in front of your face, and there's a couple of VR tweaks to it, and that's it. And I was very mad because this is a very expensive game. I went to GameStop. I had sold my Xbox One because I had just gotten an Xbox One X, so I could use the 4K capabilities on it, and I had all this credit from selling that, and I was like, this is like a $60 game. I'll use the credit towards that. And I was kind of mad once I did get it home and try it out. I was like, this is not VR at all. This is kind of a ripoff. And on top of that, the gameplay is not that fun. So why do I still have it in my collection? Because hoarder. Drunk shit going on in the chat. Pick this one up at a Half Price Books for like $5. It's the PlayStation VR demo disc. This was one of the first things released for the console, or maybe it was even included with the PSVR, unit to begin with. I don't know. All I know is that there's different revisions of this. And this is the first one. This is the original. There's like 5 or 6 different versions of this. It'll say version whatever on the front. This has none of that version stuff on it, so it's just the original demo disc. And it has parts of games that are available for it, the console, or it's not a console, the peripheral. It has levels from Eve Valkyrie, which I own, and I can vouch for. It's pretty awesome. Drive Club VR, which is like Gran Turismo in VR, and I'm not really into that kind of thing. Riggs Mechanical Combat League, which is like jetpack multiplayer matches. It sounds kind of cool, but I probably won't buy it. Battlezone, which I've already talked about, the tank game. Headmaster, it's soccer, from what I can tell. Wayward Sky, which looks like a platformer. Until Dawn, Rush of Blood, which I have and I will talk about later. PlayStation VR Worlds, which in itself is a demo disc. So there's a demo disc. This is a demo disc with a demo disc in it. What? And Tumble VR, which I don't know what the hell it is. It looks like a puzzle game. But whatever. I got it for like $5. Whatever. I wasn't going to complain. Here's the game that was supposed to come with the PSVR unit when I got it, but I had to buy it separately because it was the only thing missing from the box. PlayStation VR Worlds. This is awesome. This is fantastic. This is the game that almost gave me a panic attack. How so? Well, I'll tell you. So there's a bunch of different games on here. They are full games, but they are like short ass games because it's basically a demo. So you got the London Heist, which is essentially like a warm up for what became Blood and Truth. It's like a little narrative game, British gangster crime story. There's a lot of gunplay. There's a really cool, which is very reminiscent of what happens in Blood and Truth, the car chase on the highway where you're shooting at cars that are trying to knock you off the road. It's the warm up for it is here. The full version is in Blood and Truth. It's really, really fun and really immersive. There's a lot of cool stuff you have to do. There's Scavengers Odyssey, where you're like in this mech on the surface of a giant ship in outer space, and there's like these aliens that are attacking it, and you have to take them out. It's fun. The mech you're in moves really, really slowly, but it's entertaining. I mean, it's a different type of first-person shooter type of game. There is VR Luge, which is exactly that. It's Luge in VR, and it kind of sucks. There's Danger Ball, which is pretty fun. It's like playing Faceball. Not Faceball. Was it Glove Ball on the NES, where there's a ball bouncing, like it comes to you, and it hits the screen in front of you, and then you have to make it go back and hit the other person's screen and, like knock tiles down. Here, it's kind of like playing wow, I keep on wanting to say Tetris. Tennis. You have like your face is actually like a paddle, and you have to use your head and headbutt the ball, and the other person on the other side is trying to do the same thing. You have to try to get it past them, their ball past them. It's really, really fun. I like it a lot. And then there's Ocean Descent. So I boot this stupid thing up, and you're in a shark cage at the bottom of the ocean. And when you're in a shark cage, what shows up? Sharks. I am deathly afraid of the ocean and sharks. So I put this on, I boot that one up, I start playing it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm in a shark cage. Oh, this is kind of like in Jaws. Oh shit, there's Jaws. And I freaked out. I could not get the helmet off fast enough. I was just like, nope. Hey, what's up, Peter? How's it going, dude? Welcome. You would have missed it all. That shark thing, I almost crapped my pants, dude. You have no clue. Like, it scared the hell out of me. Oh my god. Jaws messed me up as a kid, and I have not recovered. I will not get into a body of water unless it's chlorinated. That's how bad it is. If I can't see the bottom, no go. No go! Picked this one up from Limited Run. Haven't opened it up yet because just like every Limited Run game I have, I usually don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. But it's called Prison Boss VR, and it just sounds funny because, I mean, look at the cover. There's a guy, like, cowering like he's about to get, like, jumped by Bubba. But it says Prison Boss VR is a crafting and trading game turning your living room into a jail cell. Craft cigarettes, alcohol, and cookies. Not a game for the kids. For other inmates. Customize your cell as your reputation grows. There's 11 different craftable items, 3 modes, and a great jazzy soundtrack. Because I know when I think prison life, I think smooth jazz, like a Zoloft commercial. Sounded kind of interesting and funny. I mean, it's not going to be taken seriously, so that's why I wanted it. Some of my bitch! Dropping stuff. Here's another one that I got from Limited Run. Haven't opened this either. It's called Project Lux, and I do believe this is a visual novel. And it's a crime... It's kind of like... what's it called? Phoenix Wright? It's like a courtroom drama. Visual novel type of thing. It just says a multi-end animated story featuring 5 episodes that put you in the perspective of the agent as he interacts with Lux, who's on trial for murder. Haven't played it yet. Like I said, it's a Limited Run game. I always open them at the last second. Like, when I decide I'm going to play this right now is when I open it. Beer number 8. Psychonauts, Rhombus of Ruin. This is a adventure platformer sequel of sorts to Psychonauts, which I also have for the PS4 that I got through Limited Run. I was really surprised to see Double Fine make like a VR game based on Psychonauts. No one gave a crap about Psychonauts at this point in time. And then, like, right after this came out, they announced Psychonauts 2. And I was just like, okay, they're trying to bring this thing back from the dead. That's kind of awesome, but... I haven't played this all the way through yet, but it's actually kind of fun. It's just like an adventure game, walking around in a ship and all that kind of stuff. There's not much to it. This one I just got. Had to get this from France. Ordered it through eBay. And it actually, for what's going on in the world right now, showed up pretty quickly, which surprised the hell out of me. Yet when I order something from Korea, it takes 2.5 months. Go figure. Gotta watch the 3D Blu-rays on this thing, man. They take a while to get here. We're talking Quiver. I just talked about this one in last month's pickup stream. And can you imagine bow and arrow gameplay in VR? I can, which is why I wanted it. And what is this network player? Oh, it's got a network aspect to it, too. Tasked with defending your keep from an ever-advancing enemy, you'll find yourself in a thrilling fight for your very survival. It won't be an easy battle, but with steady hands and powerful friends, you're sure to succeed. Quiver is the defining archery experience made from the ground up for VR. Grab your bow, arrows, and some friends, then fight the enemy onslaught. It's a tower defense game from the point of view of the person with the bow and arrow. Yes. Clap and cheer for the shutdown. Oh my god, here's another one that I got from Limited Run. I think this is like the third one. I remember this was Race the Sun. That's the game. Anyway, I remember this was released non-VR digitally for the PS4, and I was like, I don't care. Then I heard that it got a VR upgrade, which is why it says mode included. You don't have to play it with VR. But basically, it's like a flight type of game. You play as like this VR bird, and you control it as he's flying through these environments. And playing it without the VR doesn't sound very interesting, but playing it in VR might. And it just looks pretty interesting and has a cool visual style to it, so that's why I picked it up. Also, it's in VR, so I had to have it. Radial G Racing Revolved. It's like, this is like F-Zero in VR. And I am not kidding. You take like Wipeout and make it psychotic, even more psychotic than Wipeout is sometimes. The world's fastest VR sci-fi racer. It's really fun. I tried it out when I first got it. I got this at the same time I got that Eve Valkyrie game also, and it's pretty amazing. You can play inside the cockpit or outside, and I think the outside version is for when you're not playing in VR, because every time I've played this in VR, it's been inside the cockpit, so it's crazy. The speed is pretty awesome. The graphics are fantastic. It has awesome music. It's a lot of fun. It's like I said, F-Zero in VR. What's not to like? This is another one that I got from Limited Run. Haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but it's an adventure game. It's a puzzle adventure game called Red Matter. It says Red Matter is a story-driven VR puzzle adventure game set during a dystopian sci-fi Cold War. Take on the war of Agent Epsilon, an astronaut of the Atlantic Union, dispatched to an abandoned, that is some weird word, Volgravian base on Rhea, one of Saturn's moons. Your mission is to investigate the shady top-secret research projects going on there. It's in first person, and it looks interesting. It looks fun. Checked out some footage of it before I bought it. Trust me, I did. And I was like, okay, that looks like something I'd want to play. You tempted to play GTA and start a stream? I say do it! Anyway, this one I'm afraid to play. I was afraid to play it, and I was trying to build up to getting around to playing this one by playing all the games that came before it in this long-running series, and then playing this one in VR and streaming it. And then I saw Musty Hobbit streaming it for Halloween, this past Halloween, and I was like, I really need to play it. And we're talking Resident Evil 7, the Gold Edition. Originally, this didn't come with a VR mode. It was a Resident Evil 7, nothing VR about it at all. And then it got like a patch or something where you could play it in VR if you wanted to, and then they released a physical version. The Gold Edition is the complete edition of Resident Evil 7. There was a lot of DLC and stuff available, and they included the VR mode in this. And I watched Musty Hobbit stream it, and I was like, that's kind of awesome the way it works, and it scared the crap out of him multiple times. I'm pretty sure I'll poop a little bit when I get around to playing it, but it looks fantastic. It's even not playing it in VR, it's a first-person Resident Evil game. I don't remember there being anything T-Virus related. It's basically like you're playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's like this like hillbilly family that you're like an investigator, and you go to check them out to make like a story because another person that you know went there before you and disappeared. You're trying to find them, and they're like mutating into monsters and stuff at the same time. It's really bizarre. I don't know the full story. Like I said, I only watched parts of Musty Hobbit stream. I did not watch the finale. I don't want the whole game spoiled for me. But it looked pretty awesome, and I need to get around to playing it immediately. This one I have played. This one made my brother want to hurl. Res Infinite VR. This I got from I Am 8-Bit. It's like one of the few games that they've released physically. Normally they just release soundtracks of video games on vinyl. But they've been dabbling in the whole limited run thing where they released like a limited amount of games that were digital on physical. If you ever played Rez, it's been available since the PlayStation 2, and I do believe the Dreamcast. I think this came out in Japan on the Dreamcast. I do have the version that came out for the PS2. It's super fun. It's a rhythm game that mixes rhythm games with a Star Fox style shooter. So you're playing as this like digital guy who's flying through like this mainframe, and you have a reticle that is like your targeting reticle, and enemies will come at you, come from behind you. You can spin around in VR and look in every direction, and you have to highlight the enemies with your reticle, and they will stay highlighted, and then you let go of the fire button, and you'll shoot multiple rockets or laser beams at them at once, like in Star Fox. And it's super fun. The music is super fun, catchy, fast-paced, techno-y type stuff. And the environments are really cool. The further you get in the game, the more detailed things get. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. Even just playing the standard version of Rez. I think it's also available on the the Xbox 360. I highly recommend it. So when I was talking about Accounting VR, I do believe it's the same guy who does Rick and Morty, and they made a Rick and Morty game called Virtual Rickality. I have never watched an episode of Rick and Morty in my life. From what I understand, it will probably not appeal to me at all, so I've never checked it out. And this is like a virtual reality episode that you get to interact with. I know Church, the Game Grinder, played it, and he told me that it was actually pretty fun, but he likes Rick and Morty, so he'd probably get more out of it than I would. But I got this like dirt cheap at GameStop, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Let's do it. It's a VR game, I'll play it. But yeah, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on. From what I understand, it's like 4 hours long. So this isn't technically a VR game, but there's a VR mode included. They just don't really advertise it on the packaging. And we're talking Rise of the Tomb Raider. This is the 20-year celebration edition. Great game. There's a VR mode included, and I was really excited thinking that I'd be able to play as Lara Croft in, like, doing like a Tomb Raider thing. Like, you're in a tomb and you're plundering, going around, beating people up. No. You're basically, the VR mode is you're Lara Croft wandering around Croft Manor and just exploring. And it's really lame. And I was really disappointed that that's the only thing they could come up with for this. It's a 20-year celebration. Let's go crazy with it. It's cool if your IQ is over 120. Mine is. And I don't have any interest. Sorento VR. I picked this up because Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming told me that it's actually pretty cool. It's a first-person game where it's kind of like Red Steel for the Wii, where you have either a gun or a sword in your hand, and it's like a first-person shooter with some swordplay in it. So I was like, yes, must have it. He said that it's really cool, and it's fun, and the combat is really satisfying. It just is really short, and the ending is very strange, and like the game actually doesn't really end. It's like you beat the final boss, and there's just like open-ended gameplay from then on. You can just keep on going and doing things, but why would you want to since there's nothing left to do since you've seen everything already? So he said it was kind of a strange choice, but I was still okay with it. Anyway, Smash Hit Plunder. This is a multiplayer puzzle game. Yeah, award-winning Smash Hit Plunder is a huge VR game with multiple game modes and unique multiplayer options. Additional players can join in on the fun on either the same TV screen via the PlayStation VR social screen function. But you're a powerful mage in this physics-based, tear it up as you fight ghosts, smash everything in sight. This is worded extremely strangely. But it's a multiplayer game, and I wanted to have one where I could play with my friends. It's kind of like that werewolves game, where one person is it and no one else is. I picked this one up long before I had my PSVR, because even though it is supposedly a VR-only game, there was a patch added onto it so you could play it without VR, which is what I wanted to do. And then I got the VR headset, and I was like, okay, it's on. And it's based on my favorite franchise of all time, and that's Star Trek. It's a Star Trek bridge crew. So basically, you're on the bridge of a ship in the JJ-verse, the Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Trek Beyond universe. It's not the Enterprise, it's a generic Starfleet ship. And you can either play as the captain, the engineer, or the pilot, or the tactical person. And if you're playing single player, you can go and jump between all the stations if you want. It's basically more fun if you're playing online with other people, because you can play this online, and each person that you play with is at a different station, and like the person in command playing as the captain tells everybody what to do. I tried to play this with Captain Foley from Trek Yards, and for some reason my microphone in the headset, because there is a microphone built into the headset right underneath the viewer or the visor, and for some reason whenever I would talk they wouldn't hear anything, so they thought I was there to like troll them, and they kicked me out. And I texted him like, "Why'd you kick me out, dude? My microphone wasn't working." He's like, "Well, I didn't know it was you, so blah, blah, blah." But anyway, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and this really appealed to me. They also released a patch that lets you play in the Next Generation universe, which is kind of fantastic. And I highly recommend it. The missions are very fun. Jumping between the stations is really cool. There's a lot to remember, because you can like cycle through all these different pages of commands at each console. It takes a while to get used to everything. There's a really detailed like tutorial mode that I liked, that didn't feel like a tutorial mode normally does, and it really helps you out. I finally played a game by myself, and I had a blast doing it. And I want to say that first night when I played this by myself, I played it for like 3 hours. It's a lot of fun. I really do want to play this online with people. I know a couple of people saw me talking about this in a video, like Ben Padden from Port Center and Captain Foley from Trek Yards are all like, "You got to let us know when you want to play this online, and we'll play with you." What's up, 8-Bit Glitch? How's it going? Your thing is still right there on my shelf. It will stay there as long as I can keep it there. Yeah. So how was watching Rocky Balboa, or the original Rocky game with Sylvester Stallone? I watched a little bit of it. It's kind of fun listening to how humble he sounds compared to how arrogant I remember he sounded like in the 90s. But anyway, this isn't a VR game, but there's a VR mode that is not advertised on this. But Star Wars Battlefront, it's an online multiplayer Star Wars game that is not very good as far as I'm concerned. The spaceship battle thing is awesome, but the first person part, no. But I found out after the fact that there was a VR mode added into this as like a downloadable extra. You didn't really have to pay for it. It just came with the game. And got this at GameStop for like $5. The only reason, or no, like $3. The only reason I bought it was for that VR thing. And it turns out to be it's one stage, and it has to do with Rogue One. And it's okay, it's fun, but I wish there was more to it. Basically, you're just in an X-Wing, and you have the ship from Rogue One tailing you, and you're going on a mission, and you end up coming up against a Star Destroyer, and you have to like shoot it down. And it's like, okay, that's it? That's all you came up with? I want a full-on Star Wars game in VR. Star Trek can do it. Star Wars can do it. It was awesome. Awesome. This is one of my favorite games for PSVR, and it's super hot. I heard people talking about this, that it's kind of like playing The Matrix in VR. Originally, it was not a VR game. It was just a standard game that you would play with like your mouse and your keyboard or whatever. I think it was a PC game at first. Eventually got ported over to Oculus Rift and then PSVR. So what it is you're a guy in Russia who has a VR headset, and he's trying to break into somewhere, like hack into it, but every time he does, there's like this virtual world that he has to get through in order to get to where he wants to be. So basically, you start off like in this white room, like in The Matrix, and it's in the first person, and you have your hands, and you use the move controllers, and the triggers control your grip, and it's a puzzle first-person shooter when you're in the virtual world. So you're like, okay, there's an enemy in front of you, there's an enemy to the left of you, and there's an enemy to the right of you. The moment you start moving, the characters will start moving for full speed. The moment you stop moving is everybody like starts moving in slow motion and gives you a chance to figure out what you need to do. So they're like, enemy here, here, and here. There's one gun in the room on the floor. You need to pick it up, and you need to figure out exactly how to get these guys with, like, you know, the amount of bullets in that gun without getting killed yourself. You can dodge their bullets by, you know, doing the whole Matrix leaning thing. But they get more and more complicated. Sometimes you don't even have a gun. Sometimes they're like, there's enemies here, here, and here. Here's an ashtray. So, like, you have to pick up the ashtray and throw it at one guy. He'll let go of his gun when he gets hit, because one hit kills the enemies. And you have to, like, there's times where I've done, like, picking up guns in midair and shooting somebody with the same movement. It makes you feel like a badass. The game gets more and more difficult, crazier weapons. You get swords, you get ninja stars, you get, like, bottles you can throw. It's nuts. There's, like, submachine guns. One point, I realized I was standing on a platform that was like the size of, like the width of a 2x4. And I just happened to look down to see if there was a gun at my feet that I could use. And I looked down and I saw that I was standing on this thin little platform and there were levels beneath me. And I went like, oh, dizzy. I don't have vertigo, but that was just really off-putting. I was not prepared for that. Game is absolutely fantastic. I need to play through it again. It's, like I said, one of my favorite games on the PSVR. Highly recommended. Here is another new one. I just got this. I got this, I think, from Germany. Super Stardust Ultra VR. This is a twin-stick shooter when you play it outside of VR. Like I said, this is, VR compatible. You don't have to play it with the PSVR headset. When you're playing it in PSVR, when you're playing it standard, it's a twin-stick shooter. When you play it in PSVR, it's a first-person shooter in the same vein as that, and it's just absolute craziness, shit flying everywhere. It's hard to keep track of at times, but it's actually pretty fun at the same time. It's just nuts. It's like a graphical demo display thing type of game. I recommend it. Here's another brand new one that I got. I had to get this one from the UK also. It's called Syndrome. Haven't had a chance to play it yet, but it's a horror game. It says, Syndrome takes the genre back to its terrifying roots as players wake up on a deserted spaceship, dazed and confused from a deep cryosleep, only to discover most of the crew are dead or changed. Players will also be able to enjoy the VR game mode in which they play as the last survivor inside of a spaceship infected by bloodthirsty creatures that react violently to every movement and noise. To deal with these monsters that hide in the shadows, the player must find and equip weapons that are scattered throughout the ship. How many days will you survive? Probably not many, because I'll probably poop my pants. This one is another one of my favorite games on the PSVR. Musty Hobbit talked about it on one of his streams, and I was like, how would that even work in VR? And then I bought it, and then I played it, and I said, that's how it works. We're talking Tetris Effect. How in the hell would Tetris work in VR? Well, the thing is, they didn't really do much to it. They just enhanced the game with like a VR environment. So it's a standard game of Tetris. You have your board in front of you. The pieces are falling normally. You control them. But the thing is, there's this rhythm thing kind of going on at the same time. There's all these different environments that you play at, and you can just look to the side and like forget about the game for a second and look around, and you're like in the middle of the Sahara. Tetris. What's up, dude? How's it going? It's fantastic. It's immersive. Sometimes it looks like things are trying to distract you from playing the game of Tetris, and I'm actually able to focus very well. It's pretty fantastic. It's one of my favorite games on the VR. Like I said, I did not think it would ever work in a million years, but it actually does, and very well. Here's another pretty new one I got from the UK also. I know Jason got this one too. It's called Theseus. Still sealed, haven't had a chance to play yet. It just says, Theseus is a tense and atmospheric story-driven adventure played out in a unique third-person perspective. The legendary hero advances to the very heart of the labyrinth. All the while, the Minotaur, a threatening presence among the ruins of his lair, is on the hunt for blood. Sounded kind of cool to me, so I picked it up. Busy as fuck, so I have to catch up on some of this later. Yeah, I'm towards the end. But I'm going to talk about the Iron Man when I'm done, sir. So you better stick around. This one is another one of my favorite VR games. I picked this one up because Tesseract on Twitch, met him at the Midwest Gaming Classic. He's part of the Cartridge Club. Was talking to me. I was streaming another VR game, and he was watching me play it, and he was like, you need to play Thumper. It's like one of the most visceral games I've ever played in VR. And I was like, oh, really? I need to try that out. And then like a week later, Limited Run announced that they were going to be releasing the VR version physically. Because originally it was just a digital game. And I was like, yep, there we go. It's going to happen. We're talking Thumper. It's a rhythm game where you play as this like little metal beetle that's flying down a track, like a Hot Wheels track. And every time there's a curve in the road, you need to do a specific controller movement to make your character turn and not crash. There's obstacles you need to break through. In order to do it, you need to hit a certain button on the controller. But all this is being done to the beat of this like really strange ambient music that is super catchy and moody, and it's like you realize that every time you are doing something that requires a controller movement, you're adding something to the music. So like when you break through the barrier, you'll make like a sound, and it ends up being like a cymbal crash. Or when you turn around the corner, it makes like this grinding sound. You realize it sounds like a record being scratched, like a DJ would do. Yes, I have all the Android assaults. How's it going, Neo Genesis? And then there's like these boss battles where you have to avoid blasts that this crazy looking face thing on the cover here shoots at you, and you have to bounce them back at them. It is insane, and it is a visual powerhouse, and it is just crazy. I absolutely love it. It's fast, and it's like twitchy, I guess you want to say. I absolutely love it. It's, like I said, one of my favorite games on this platform. I'm starting to get tired. I'm starting to lose my enthusiasm. It's been a long day. Long day. Time Carnage. Haven't had a chance to try this one out yet. Had to get this one from the UK also. Digital game available on physical, only in the UK for some reason. And I do believe this is a first-person shooter where you travel through time and shoot dinosaurs in the face. What's not to like? I had to have it. I don't know. Jason, have you played that one? Here's another one I picked up not too long ago. It's another one that I had to import from the UK. It's called Torn. And if you've ever watched The Haunting of Hill House, I think that's what it's called, on Netflix, the cover of this is extremely reminiscent of the poster key art for that show. That show is absolutely fantastic. So this is a horror game, obviously. It's a dark sci-fi mystery built exclusively for VR. Explore the abandoned mansion of Dr. Lawrence Talbot, teeming with the puzzles and machinations of an eccentric, disembodied scientist. It's a narrative puzzle game that evolves into a dark, character-driven story as you slowly uncover the truth about Talbot and the new dimension he calls the Parallel. It sounded actually pretty fantastic, so I picked it up. Time Carnage is a wave shooter where you travel through time, simple but super fun. That's all I ask for. So it's kind of like playing Operation Warcade, right? And I liked Operation Warcade, so I shall like that. I need to play through this one also. Torn looked pretty cool. Okay, so I played this one. It's another one. This is the second game that Limited Run released for VR. It's called To the Top. It's a platformer in VR. I thought it was going to be like playing Mirror's Edge. It was not. I booted this up the moment it showed up in the mail. I was like really excited. I was like, I don't care if this is from Limited Run. Open this shit up. I'm going to play it. It's terrible. I do not like the way the movement works. You use the move controllers as your hands, and there's certain icons that you need to use to climb and stuff like that. And the move controller response time is so slow. It's not fun to play. Like, I was miserable while I was playing it. I was like, this is not fun. I wasted some of my money. I wasted some time. Not a fan of it. I kept it because why not? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, and I don't recommend picking it up. Here's one that everyone tells me I need to play, including Jason from Corpse Flood and Church. We're talking Trover versus the Universe. This is another one of those Justin Roiland games, the guy that does Rick and Morty. And we were talking about this on the Game Tenants podcast back in December. And Jason kept on quoting like a character from this who, I guess, I haven't played it yet. I need to. I'm probably going to play it this weekend during the little vacation that we get for Memorial Day. That, like, there's characters that you walk past in the environments that just kind of say random things. And, like, one of them just randomly goes, like, you fucking piece of shit. And it was like a thing that turned into an ongoing joke during that episode of the podcast, and it cracked me the hell up. So I kind of want to hear it for myself in the game. So it's going to happen. I'm probably going to play this and Accounting and the Rick and Morty game this weekend. If I don't, Jason, you have my permission to show up at my house and slap me upside the back of my head. The best. Here's another one that I had to import from the UK. Haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but it's called Unearthing Mars 2, The Ancient War. I've never heard of the original game. Probably for PC? I don't know. But it's a first-person shooter, from what I can tell. Fight sophisticated AI defenses. They spell defenses wrong on the back of the box. See where it says sophisticated AI defenses with a C? You son. Superhuman behemoths and gigantic automatons using ever more powerful and distinctive weapons. Trigger the sharp focus feature to become stronger for a short period of time during critical combat moments. Featuring PlayStation aim controller support. First person shooter! I have played this one. Rush of Blood, Until Dawn, or Until Dawn, Rush of Blood. You getting your adrenal gland pumped? Am I tickling it? Am I tickling it for you? I just did some ASMR shit. Damn it, Chris! I'm gonna start going like, oh, you're calming. No. Anyway, I'm tired. I'm getting loopy when I'm playing with Down Phoenix. Sup, Chris? What's up, guys? What's going on, man? Yeah, Until Dawn, Rush of Blood. It's a on-rails shooter. You're like at a carnival, and you're sitting in a roller coaster cart, and you're basically being taken on this tour, and you shoot things as you're going. And at first, I was really liking it. I was kind of like, this is fun. You know, it's just an on-rails shooter type of game. The more I played it, the more I was just kind of like, this is very one-note, and I just did not end up enjoying myself. I beat it, like, in one sitting. I was just kind of like, yeah. I know Church of the Game Grinder praises this one a lot. I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather just play the original Until Dawn. This one didn't really do much for me. Like I said, I got bored of it by the end. I was just kind of like, whatever. But you have like a whole bunch of different environments that you go into. There's like a mental or an insane asylum, and there's like a haunted circus, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of whatever. This one I streamed, and I beat it. I saw what the trophies that you could achieve were, and one of them was so freaking. It would take forever to do it. I said, screw it. I'm gonna stream myself trying to achieve this trophy, and we're talking VR ping pong table tennis simulator. Yeah, ping pong. I had to play this for, well, you get trophies for winning a certain amount of matches. The one that had the most amount of matches you had to win to earn a trophy was you had to win 1,000 matches. I streamed this for like 5.5 hours on Twitch, me trying to get that 1,000 match win, and I did. And I think Tesseract was watching me, and he made a clip out of it and everything, and I said some crazy shit when I did it, because at the end I was just like so tired from flinging my hand around trying to, smack a ball around a table. The game is fun. I don't recommend you go and try to win 1,000 matches to get that trophy unless you were really dedicated like I was. Like, I just wanted to try to platinum one game in my life. Still haven't gotten the other achievements in it yet. So that hasn't happened. But for a fun little diversion of a VR game, it's actually pretty fun. You use the Move controller, and you slap the ball around the table, and there's a virtual character across from you in a virtual arena. It's actually pretty fun in little short bursts. Like I said, 1,000 rounds, or 1,000 wins is pushing it. Got this at GameStop for like $5, and I still have not played it because I do believe it requires multiplayer. And that is Werewolves Within. Ever play that game Werewolf, where you're at a party and a bunch of people sit around in a circle, and one person in the group is the werewolf, and everyone has to ask each other questions to figure out who the person in the group is the werewolf? That's exactly what this is. Which game are you talking about, Down Phoenix? Ping Pong or Until Dawn? But I haven't had a chance to try it yet because it kind of requires you to have friends, and we're in a pandemic right now. Can't really do that. Oh, Werewolves Within? Okay, yeah, I haven't had a chance to try it yet. Eventually I will, but it has a 5 to 8 players. God damn. Well, you can do it online, so there's that. Do I really want to, though, is the question. Similar type of game, Town of Salem. Here's a crazy one. There's some tweaks you have to do to get this to work properly, but once you do, it is pretty fantastic. We're talking Wipeout. This is the Wipeout Omega Collection. It's like all the Wipeout games on one. It has remastered versions of Wipeout HD, Wipeout Fury, and Wipeout 2048, which I do believe is a Vita game. So the thing is, there is a VR mode included where you're inside the cockpit of one of the racing cars in the future, and it is like, it will make you dizzy. I was talking about Radial G earlier, which is like the F-Zero remake for the PSVR. This game is psychotic. It actually, like, I don't usually get motion sickness from anything, but there was a point where, like, I was trying to adjust to the speed, and my brain just couldn't handle it for the first few seconds, and I was just kind of like, whoa, 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 okay, now we go. And it's actually pretty fun. There's for some reason, there's like this shield that is meant to make the game run smoother when you're playing in the VR mode. There's like this shield that's on the sides of your ship that kind of inhibits your view if you look to the sides. There's a way to get rid of that. The game runs a little bit not as fast, I guess. Like, the frame rate drops a little bit. But, like, Musty Hop was trying to tell me how to do it, and I couldn't get it to happen. But I will try again. But the game is absolutely fantastic in VR. Even when you're not playing in VR. It's Wipeout, and Wipeout is absolutely freaking amazing. Just got this one last month. Haven't had a chance to play it yet. I know Jason of Corpse Flood just got a copy of this also. And we're talking The Wizards. This is the Enhanced Edition. It is an exclusive game for the PSVR. And there was a game that came out for the 360 for the Kinect, and it was called Fable the Journey, where the Kinect camera would track your hands, and it was in the first person, and it was basically like an on-rails type of shooter, but your hands could control magic, and you would do certain movements with your hands to shoot certain types of magic attacks, like electricity or fire or whatever. And that's what this reminded me of. It's a first-person game. You have like a magical bow. What was that TV show where the guy had a bow that had no string, but the moment you would put your hand, was it the Lord of the Rings or something? And you would put your hand on like there was a string there, but it wasn't. And the moment you would make the movement, and a magical bow string with a magical arrow would appear. Well, that kind of thing happens in this, and you also have the ability to shoot magic from your hands and all that. And that sounds pretty fantastic, so I made an effort to get a copy of this thing. That sounds fun. And then I picked this one up. I pre-ordered it on Amazon, and then when it showed up, Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming was like, I already beat it. It's not that great. We're talking Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. It's like a 6-hour-long first-person shooter inside of a giant mech in the Wolfenstein universe. I guess at least the universe that's in Youngblood, Wolfenstein Youngblood. And it sounded really cool when I first heard it announced at E3 or whatever it was. And everybody tells me, it's like, yeah, it's all right. So I haven't had a chance to play it yet because I wasn't really that enthused to actually boot it up. This one I do not recommend anybody buy at all. It has a mode that's included for VR. The game itself might be okay, but I played it in VR. I streamed it in VR. And I wanted to throw my PSVR headset across the room because it was so bad. And we're talking Zone of the Enders, the second runner, Mars. So this is the second Zone of the Enders game, and it's like a remastered version of it. I highly recommend if you are going to play this game, do not play it in the VR. Because when I played it in the VR, it's in the first person, and you can't really control your mech, or whatever they called him in the game. I don't remember. You basically, when you want to fight and there's multiple enemies, you'll hit the attack button and you'll rush up to whatever enemy is closest. You beat it up, but if you keep hitting the attack button, you'll automatically run up to another character that's trying to attack you and just keep zipping around to all the different enemies in the area. It is so disorienting. I could not tell where the hell I was in the level. I ended up on the other side of a level because that's the way it was working. I zipped across the entire level just fighting things, not realizing that I was actually moving far. And by the time I was done beating everything up and killing all the enemies, I was like, okay, now where the hell am I? I am totally lost. I don't recommend playing it. It is disorienting. It's frustrating. It's not fun. I do want to try it again, and not in VR to try it out, but I do want to play the first game before I play this because this is the second game in the series, so I have to get the remastered collection for the PS3 or whatever. So that's it for my physical ones. There's ones that I've downloaded. There was one that came out when Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was released, and it's like a VR flight sim mission where it's kind of like Wing Commander. It's just like one stage of you trying to repel an invasion force from the enemies that are in the game, and it's actually pretty fun. It's really short. It's probably like a 10-minute, 15-minute game depending on how good you are. But I love Wing Commander, and playing Wing Commander in VR is awesome, so I highly recommend downloading that Call of Duty demo if you can. But today, Jason from Corpse Flood here told me that the demo for Iron Man VR was released today. The game I've had pre-ordered on Amazon since probably December. It's coming out in July, I do believe now, for just in time for 4th of July weekend, which is awesome. That means I can play it all freaking weekend because I'll have those days off too. I also downloaded a Spider-Man Far From Home demo where you get to swing around as Spider-Man, which is pretty cool. And then one for Space Channel 5. What? Can't wait to see what that's like. But I played the Iron Man VR demo before I started streaming today. I was playing it probably 15 minutes before I stopped playing it about 15 minutes before I started streaming today. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. It's probably the best freaking VR thing I've ever played. Oh my god. So, you have to use the VR or the Move controllers. You are required to stand, which is probably my only issue. But when you see what you have to do with the Move controllers, it makes sense that they would want you to stand. So, Your move controllers are Tony Stark's hands. And when you're in the Iron Man suit, what do his hands do? They let him fly. So if you want to fly, you have to hold the triggers down to activate the repulsors in the palms of his hands. And you have to hold them at your sides and use them to float. If you want to fly forward, you have to hold them behind you and bend forward. If you want to stop, you have to like hold them in front of you and kind of like do like an air brake. You can like fly in circles by having one hold you up and the other one flying you around and, you know, turning you around and all that. You also use them to shoot things, right? So the move buttons on your thumbs do that. And you have to hold your hand out kind of like this. And in the game, Tony will have his hand out like that. And you shoot repulsor blasts out of that. I was basically doing the tutorial for about the 15-20 minutes I was playing it, and the tutorial alone is freaking amazing. So it's like I cannot talk. I'm so freaking exhausted right now. You're getting accustomed to the flying mechanics, which work extremely well. I never once had an issue where I was like, I can't figure out, like I'm like lost, I'm out of control, swinging around, and no. You're basically flying through some rings. They teach you how to do this boost mechanic by double tapping the flying button, and you get this really quick boost. You're flying through some rings like Superman 64, but it doesn't suck. And then you have a target practice thing where you're shooting at things, and then eventually they're trying to get you to fly and shoot at the same time, which does take a little getting used to, but I did get used to it, and it is extremely fun. You actually control where you move by turning your head. So wherever your head is looking is where you're going to fly. So sometimes you're actually required to turn around, complete 180, and look the opposite direction to hit something that's behind you. And they actually give you a warning. Make sure the cable for your PSVR headset is not in the way, because if you do a 180, you're going to get tangled up if you turn back. If you keep on turning in the same direction. They're like, please remember to turn back in the direction that you turned, or the opposite the direction you turned originally, so you don't get tangled up in the cable, which is kind of funny that they mentioned that. But I cannot wait for the full version of the game to come out. I absolutely cannot wait. Just the demo alone is freaking amazing. The moment I stop streaming tonight, I'm going back over there and I'm playing it some more. And then I'm probably going to try out that Space Channel 5 one. So, highly recommend the Iron Man demo. Do it. You got Pepper Potts talking you through certain things. Just the way it's designed and the way it looks. The guy who plays Tony Stark, who does the voice, sounds a little bit like Jack Black in the 90s, which is kind of strange, but whatever. But it's an awesome game. I highly recommend picking up that demo. The demo is like 40 gigs, though, which is kind of terrible, but whatever. I'll keep it on my PS4 until the actual game shows up in July, but I highly recommend downloading that demo. It's fantastic. So, that's it for tonight. Thank you for coming and chatting with me, and interesting chat tonight. Most of it was just people chatting amongst themselves, but that's interesting. That's fun. That's cool. Had a little raid also. I never get raided. I got raided once by J-Love, and that was basically it. You're going live in 5 minutes. All right, have a good night, FG. Thanks for coming by. So next week is going to begin the end of these live streams because the last console I have... Excuse me, I got a little bit of the gassy. The last console I have left to talk about is the Switch. Yes, dude, you need it. There are so many cool experiences to have with this thing. Like, each game is a little bit different. Some aren't great. I mean, out of all the games I have played in my collection, I want to say maybe 3 of them I don't really like. But for the most part, each one has its own pluses and minuses, and VR is just super fun. Plus, you can watch 3D Blu-rays in the headset if you don't have a 3D TV. And nowadays, who has a 3D TV? Not many people. So, next week we'll begin the Switch live streams. I haven't decided if I'm going to split it into 2 streams yet, because I do have quite a lot of Switch games. Most likely I will. And then I want to throw this out to everybody. I started a poll on my Twitter page that I've been watching Buried on Mars, who's a member of the Cartridge Club, his channel. He's been doing like these live streams like me, but doing his like DVD and Blu-ray collection. I have a massive Blu-ray collection. And I was like, would anybody be interested once I'm finished with these video game collection live streams if I did a series of live streams on this channel where I talk about all the movies that I have in my collection also. And so far it's pretty unanimous, yes. So I wanted to throw that out to anyone who hasn't checked that poll out yet. Go to my Twitter page. It's just OA Retro Gamer. And vote, or let me know here if you want me to do that. So I'm willing to do a series of live streams where I talk about all the films in my collection, and that would be about 5 or 6 streams because I have so many movies and I'm always constantly buying new ones. I got DVDs I could talk about too. I don't have many DVDs, but I have kept ones that aren't available on Blu-ray, so there's that. But if that's something that you guys are interested in, I'm willing to do that as well, because making these live stream videos where I talk about all this stuff in my collection is a lot of fun for me. Especially when I get to talk about movies. When I get to talking about movies, whoo boy. Talking about games is one thing. Talking about movies, ask Jason from Corpse Blood Gaming. When I start talking movies, you can't shut me up. So, go over to my Twitter page, check out that poll, vote, let me know what you want me to do. I'm definitely willing to do it. So, come back next Thursday, 7 p.m. Central, for probably what's going to be the first part of my Switch collection. And I hope to see you there. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Spending your time with me. That's amazing. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for coming. Have a good night, everybody. Please stay safe out there. I know areas are starting to open back up. Certain states are starting to slowly open back up. Please just don't rush into anything. Please be safe. Still wear a mask, maybe gloves. Who knows? Or you know what? Just stay indoors. Don't go out until things are on the down turn. Anyway, don't drink bleach. Have a good night. Thank you for coming.